if you don't change with the world, if you don't bring the resourcefulness into it and you don't change, that just leads to a life of misery and bitterness, because it then turns into arrogance. It then turns into all sorts of things where you're not changing with the world. So the world's always going to be changing, and in fact, actually, it's kind of ignorant to not believe the world's going to change and to continue doing things the same way. Sure, if something's getting you the same result and you've tested other things out to see if that's the best way to go, and then that does prove to be the best way forward, continue doing it until there becomes another time where you need to test it again to check if it's still the best way to go. Because eventually that same thing that you do, that you're repeating, is going to be the less productive or the less efficient or in just downright useless. An example for you. I love examples, as I'm sure you know, and stories. I remember talking with some colleagues about how the world's moved forward, and how now when the internet goes out, the whole world's kind of we basically go into meltdown. We don't know what's going on because we can't function. Businesses can't function. Home, you can't function. The internet goes, that's like, what do we do all of a sudden? And sure, there's a bunch of things you can do to fill the time. But in terms of a business, if the internet goes out, we're pretty well done, because you can't, send a letter you can't write a letter, take it down to the post office, have it posted off, and then get to the place you need to let them know your internet's out. Most of the time, by the time the internet's back up, the letter hasn't even been delivered yet. But also because it's the least efficient way to go about it. Make a phone call. You can do a lot of things, or you can find different ways to solve that problem. The reason that's the case, the reason that we're so reliant on these things and when we're changing and efficient, is because the old way is no longer useful anymore. And what I mean by that is, for instance, we're always messaging each other on social media, we're texting, and occasionally we might have a phone call or something like that, but we're not emailing each other. Whereas once upon a time, email was the way to go. If you wanted to chat with your friend, you'd send him an email. Or if you wanted to speak to a relative across the other side of the world, you'd send him an email and you'd chat in an email chain. And there's plenty of those that still do that. But it's a very redundant way of communicating when you could be using a chat service, because the chat service is a much more efficient way to go. So if you don't change and you're still sending emails, the world's going to start leaving you, and then less and less and less and less people are going to be using that format. Eventually, that service will drop off and not exist anymore. Have you seen a floppy disk? There's a lot of people in this video. Do you know what a floppy disk is? I do. I used floppy disks when I was a kid, but you don't use them now because, one, they're so slow, small storage capacity, the computers don't even have a drive to put them in, all that stuff. But if you were still using it because it was your preferred method, because it's just what you always did, you now can't even operate. You can't function anymore because you haven't changed with the times, and it's always going to be changing. Some machines don't even come with CD drives anymore. We don't even use them anymore. And there's going to be a point where people are going to watch back this video and be like, what's a CD? Because we're so far past it. It doesn't even exist anymore.